everyone. Welcome back to PaizoCon. I'm Rob Pontius from No Direction. You can find me online at Sound Infinity, or here at No Direction. You can find me in Investing In, talking about all the cons, indie games, and of course, Pathfinder I'm digging into, touches Starfinder 2. Joining us today is Josh Birdsong, designer on the Pathfinder team. Been with us since 2023, if I'm recalling correctly. Credits include Monster Core 2, Rival Academies, and of course, our topic today, Impossible Magic. Oh, Draconic Codex, I forgot as well. In case you didn't know, Josh has a background in theater and also was quite popular for his home brewing and freelancing before joining us. So I got my question first to you, Josh. Was it in profit or I'm profit? I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. It's in profit is how I would
Ah,
always say it. I don't know
like
if there is a
impossible, in profit.
there we go, 1-to-1. The inspiration for the book. No. Yeah, it's never something I put a lot of thought into. But it was
Yeah.
just like the first name that I used in like when I had a World of Warcraft character when I was X years old and I just kept the name.
I feel that Silent Infinity's
Yeah.
been following me around since AOL days, considering how old I am. So you make these choices and they stick around.
Yep.
I think my first question for you before I usually in investing in I'm going into the mechanics and then I separate and do something about the lore.
Mm.
One thing that really stuck out to me about the Impossible Lands book is we quickly had a setting expectations check-in kind of sidebar because some of the topics that are covered in
Mm.
Impossible Lands, it's a darker, slightly more mature region of topics, and I
Yeah.
loved that the book quickly was like, "Hey, this is a conversation you should have with your table first." So I
Mhm.
guess first, how did that translate with Impossible Magic? Tying in those mechanics and themes. Did you find that similar before we really dig into some of these pertinent topical mechanical items?
Yeah. So Impossible Magic isn't an Impossible Lands book,
Right,
to begin with.
just
Uh,
inspired by.
yes, and it like there is a narrative element throughout the chapters that those who read will find, and that does take place, um, in the Impossible Lands, but it is not the star of the show like it was in the Impossible Lands Lost Omens book, because that was like the Impossible Lands were front and center. They were what the focus of the book was on. This is very much a source book. It has going to have lots of character options, lots of options for GMs and all sorts of things like that you would expect from this kind of book,
Mhm.
while also featuring uh, a narrative element and some of the mechanics inspired by places in the Impossible Lands. But it is not front and center. This is not showcasing the political landscape of the Lost Omens books kind of thing. So there are disclaimers about how to use some of the mechanics in the books and like what campaigns they are appropriate for, especially the very much anticipated impossible spells.
Mhm.
Um, but not so much on a topical note because those notes weren't quite being hit in this book the same way
All
that they
right.
were in that book.
Well, thank you for answering that. I think that's important
Yeah.
for a lot of people who were, even like me when it was first announced, like how impossible lands tied is this? And I think it's great about all
Yeah.
Paizo material is that like, hey, you can use this in Galarian, you can use this
Mhm.
in, other regions of Galarian, but you can just use this in your Pathfinder game that's not even Galarian if you've
Absolutely.
got a completely homebrew world. So I
For
think
sure.
GMs and players will be excited for that.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I think I'd love to ask you first and foremost. We've come out of the playtest. Ended a while ago. Loved your
Hmm.
follow-up blog. Was
Yeah.
even quite amused with your necromancer. Oh, we heard about moving. The thralls. We'll keep that in mind moving forward. And I was like, did he make that pun on purpose? I was trying to figure out. Can I ask before we maybe talk about the classes first? What surprised you most coming out of that playtest?
What surprised me most coming out of the playtest? There was a lot of things I was anticipating coming out of that playtest. We definitely we're more cementing the idea of necromantic magic. Before in the past, it was kind of a nebulous thing that was floating between lots of different traditions, and we kind of cemented it into well, we're going to make occult the kind of necromancy tradition, and we're going to cement it in here. There are still going to be some necromancer spells on the arcane list and on the divine list. We had a few people asking for it to be on the nature list, which I was not expecting. I guess that's what surprised me the most is some people were wanting like some fungus necromancers, which is a really cool idea. And
Decay,
yeah,
good
yeah,
point. Part of the cycle.
absolutely. And like a lot of things, like a lot of like elements of different spell lists do find their way on other places. Like you can have like divine fire, for example, even though like the elemental magics aren't really part of the divine school.
Hmm.
Um, and find that's true with necromancy. It can definitely slip into a lot of those other traditions in a way, and it is closest on the wheel to divine and arcane, so they definitely do flow into those traditions. But yeah, we're very happy with the direction, and we took a lot of feedback about some of the spells they don't have access to. A lot of the spells that haven't been remastered that people were anticipating, that people were wanting on the necromancer, have been remastered to be also on the occult spell list, so the necromancers do have access to those.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I know you called that out in the blog as well. And uh, transparency. I am very excited for the Necromancer. I am currently playing one with the playtest rules in an Impossible Lands based campaign that a friend of
Awesome.
mine started writing the campaign completely from scratch. So I'm very excited for all the necromancy details. But I promise everyone we're going to get into a lot more than that. Maybe we'll start with the Magus first. Like the Magus got a slight update. For core, hey, we've changed some things. A lot of these spells are now save base. As we get more into the Magus now here with the remastered version fully, can you share about maybe some of the changes we'll see?
Yes. I can share a little bit about it. The
Okay.
Magus and the Summoner definitely did get some nice touch-ups in this. They did not have massive changes on like say
Not
the Oracle
expected.
did.
Right.
But I think people are really gonna like the quality of life updates we added to this, and as well as a lot oh boy an expansion to a feature that both the Summoner and the Magus had that got are gonna get a nice little boost, and that's I think all I can say on that matter. And I think
Ooh.
Magus and Summoner players are going to be very, very happy with
Ooh,
how
such a
these
good
come out.
tease. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, great. I was hoping too we would hear a bit about the summoner as well because people are very excited to see what core updates come from this for Impossible.
Yes.
So a shared feature that both I'm trying to is it a specific feature name I'm just not recalling, or is it just something that's now coming in? All right, everyone, do your research. Call it out in the chat. Rob doesn't. If they have a specific feature I'm not thinking of, put it in there. Otherwise, start
Yeah.
doing your digging. All
I
right.
will say we also in these books had the opportunity to expand on them all a little bit, especially the summoner. We have done a little bit of reformatting to how we present the summons, so we were
Okay.
able to fit more of the more Eidolon options in this book
I
than
love
they
it. Like
originally
people were very
had.
excited for the Fey Eidolon, which came. I can't remember which book.
Yeah.
And then seeing the like trait use, they're like, okay, we're getting a taste of how things are changing.
It also hopefully be a little bit easier to read them as well, because there's always those big blocks of text. The smaller we can make those to generally, the easier it is for people to understand them.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the usability of it all is
absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
I always love pointing people to, the archives of Nethys and Demiplane to be like, hey, you can just read in how these mechanics work. Really dig into it, especially if they're moving from other games like Powered by the Apocalypse or, of course, Dungeons and Dragons. So it's great.
Mhm.
Well, you hit on one of my main questions for the Necromancer then was about, that feedback for the
Yeah.
spells. Can
Yes.
I ask about that feedback about the movement of thralls? Is
Oh,
there
you want
some
to
more
know if
abilities
if
around
there was
it?
any
Or
if there if we propelled that forward at all, or
yeah. Oh, you do
we
it
have
again.
we well, we like to march with what the feedback is in that regard, and in regard to that, there definitely has been movement. I would say that. Yes, thralls are going to have options to move coming forward. We
Love it. I love it.
I would not say to what extent or what regards they are, but it is going to be a readily accessible option that you will get. Every necromancer will have the ability to do. And I did I well, it was not going to be as easy to move all your thralls at once.
I know you were
And
very concerned about it
very
slowing down the
concerned about
table.
that.
That's very
I
fair.
did put in a feature that would let necromancers move all their thralls at once, but not as often as you might want to. But it
Mm.
is an option, and it is a very cool and I think fun option that people will have the opportunity to control the army of thralls that they summon.
Yeah, you say army, and I was kind of wondering, like, are we going to see something like you got to treat it as a horde then suddenly, and they like move similarly? So very, very interesting for you to
I will
reference
ominously sip on my
army.
tea.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. How about from the runesmith? I was very curious. How do you want the runesmith really to feel like their average turn at the table, and how is that being
Yeah.
reflected in the updates,
Oh
especially from the
boy,
feedback
runesmiths are such a box of tools. In the
for
sense that
style?
I don't think there is going to be a normal runesmith turn
Fair.
in that sense because they have such flexibility with how they prepare runes, expend runes, set up runes, as well as blending in movements and attacks into all of that, raising shields. It is um it is like a jack of all trades on the battlefield, and it can perform just about any role it wants to.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Especially like
it's
damage
yeah,
runes versus buffing runes, debuff
yes.
runes on your
We
enemies.
definitely wanted to lean more into the supporting aspects of it and less into
Okay.
the I'm going to be a big burst of damage. Like we want the reserve, the I am a martial character who does magic and does a big burst of damage kind of to the magus in that regards. But the runesmith definitely I think is gonna uh it turned out really, really awesome. The runes are all they have been massively expanded. There's so many runes to pick from. Um, Lots of cool character options. It's gonna be all over the place. We we we're not quite gonna be the explosive damage numbers that we saw in the in the
I saw some of those posts
playtest.
like, look at what you could do. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
guys, you're
we
maybe
toned
like
that down
gaming,
a
but
little
that's good
bit.
for playtest, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And that's what playtest is for, is to, we're trying out these new systems. Both these characters had two very new kind of systems that we were playing with, and we got a lot of great feedback on them, and I think we were gonna make them even like they were really people really had great things to say about the systems that we had with the thralls and with the runes, and I think they're just gotten better since we've been able to get all that feedback and work it all in and build something that's gonna be awesome at the table and not kill the boss in 2 rounds. Um,
Yeah. I was very lucky to be at PAX Unplugged in 2024, where, Paizo had their presence and you were able to play test the Runesmith or
yeah,
Necromancer. And I talked to a few people that got to play both. I, of course, tried the Necromancer because I was super hyped for it. And the feedback, just even from the playtest, was like, oh, yeah, I have ideas, but like it was so much fun to play. And I like the versatility, especially with the Runesmith and
yeah,
being able to play up, because almost all spellcasting is described as the different circle of runes or your manifestations from a visual perspective of your spellcasting. So then taking it to someone who specifically studied those and use them is, I think, very interesting, and I think will create for some very cool role-playing scenarios, let alone cool combats and social encounters. Did you see
yeah.
any runes specifically made, or maybe mechanics around it where they are functioning a bit more in like social utility beyond the buffing? Maybe like runes on
Yeah.
doors or traps with runes.
Hmm. There are definitely runes that can go on objects
Yeah.
in
Okay.
a sense. Nothing is quite coming to mind right off the top
Okay.
of my noggin here for that. Um, Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head. But that is a really cool avenue to explore. And
Yeah, I'm very
I
curious.
delved into this world through homebrew, and I highly encourage that everyone to wants to homebrew yourself. So if there is something that you think is really cool for the runesmith, homebrew it in, give it a try, and see
You know,
how it goes. That's
as much as like necromancer, and I was even impressed. Like necromancer, you already had your ideas of like the subclasses, basically of it, that you were choosing. Where necromancy, you're truly focusing in on undeath, this pet
yeah.
class, where the runesmith is so broad that has that versatility. It feels like it can be taking many directions, and I think it has a lot of opportunity for growth in the future, as we tend to see, the occasional archetype pop up for these classes. So interesting to see how that will roll out. Maybe.
Oh, I
Oh,
think you've pinned on something that I am willing
oh,
to give a little spoiler for.
okay, yes,
The subclasses for Necromancer have expanded. There
okay.
is an addition that many people have asked for and anticipated. There will be a Blood Necromancer in the final release.
So I chose Spirit Monger, but a large part of me was like, man, if there was a blood one, but maybe in the
Absolutely.
final.
Hmm.
Awesome. Love to hear that.
Yes.
Can we hear what their special feature is
What
for
there is.
choosing that option?
Mm,
Even
I
at a high
suppose I can
level?
give a little thing. Um, One of the things we played with was the little thrall enhancements every subclasses gets.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those have changed from the playtest a little bit. They have been adjusted and whatnot. They're not exactly the same as they were. But one thing that the blood thralls do is that whenever one of your thralls are destroyed, you regain 1 hit point, and that scales a little bit as you level up. Not a lot, but even if you're unconscious, you regain that 1 hit point. So an ally could bring you
Oh,
back up by destroying one of your
just by
thralls.
like elbowing a
Yeah.
thrall and be like, get up.
Yeah.
That is great and can be really good if like it's a melee focused necromancer, like
Yeah.
coming in with these vitae based, thralls.
Hmm.
Um, to borrow from my World of Darkness vampire love, there's all that power from the blood.
Yep. Yep.
How about from the runesmith? Anything similar you want to tease?
Smiths didn't quite have subclasses in the same way. They can't get
True.
quite as
Maybe a
fancy
major
as the
new rune
spoiler.
or option that you were really excited about?
Yeah. Let's what's a cool new rune we got? So we had those two very high level runes that were very fun. We had the Elf Gate Key and the Seal of the Dead Vault. Let's talk about uh Zinsala, the Well of Virtue, a 17th level rune
Oof.
drawn upon a space. This rune is a big area buff in a 30-foot emanation. It gives you and your allies a boost to your AC and your saving throws against magical effects and resistance from magical effects. And that will include not just spells, but also anything with the arcane, primal, occult, or divine trait or magical trait. And that often includes things like dragon breath
Mm-hmm.
and things like that nature. So help with that, and then it can be evoked for a big burst of healing and a movement speed, a temporary movement speed buff. So it can be a big, like, wide area buff into an emergency heal when needed.
Yeah, very large adjunctive effect, and really, since it covers that deeper
Yeah,
breath, it's just protective no matter what.
for sure. And these aren't spells, so you can do this every combat once you get this.
Uh-huh.
You're not going to run out of runes.
Hmm. Well, thank you, Josh.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
let's maybe check on a few questions tied to these. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Make
Oyman,
sure no
you
one has any
boy
questions about
man?
this.
He asked, is Runesmith going to be good at range?
Well, we had the rune singing in the original one, and people really loved that. Now, I will say, I won't say exactly how, but that has been a bit expanded in this to give
Ooh,
more options for perhaps a little bit more reliable use if you invest a bit more into it.
hmm, love that.
Yeah,
It's always nice to see the things that come up popular get a lot of like dialogue during the playtest, and then your team is able to jump on it and expand. So that's really great to
yeah.
hear. There was a specific question jumping back to the magus that
Hmm.
Emilia Rez asked, will Magus get something like Channel Smite, where spells they cast through Spell Strike don't have the manipulation trait? I
Cast these
think
spells.
they're
For
thinking of
for
some of the
magus?
combos. Yes.
Hmm.
I'm guessing they're
Don't.
worried about
Yeah.
the uh,
I
prompting of attacks.
I don't quite remember the exact wording we landed on off the top of my head with Spell Strike. We definitely put a lot of work into it to make it as satisfying to use for as many playstyles as possible.
Hmm.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head without like delving into the exact phrasing of the language that we use, which as fun as a reading stream would be, my time on this is a bit limited in that regards. So I think people are going to be very happy with some of the changes that happened with Magus for sure. And yeah, especially in regards to things like the stance that they go into, I think will be a lot more accessible and easier to do, as well as their perhaps shared feature with the summoner.
Yeah, very curious
Yeah,
on that one. I'm assuming
yeah,
Media Res is concerned from like a reactive strike perspective, so we will
absolutely, yeah.
have to wait and see.
Hmm.
Okay, how about Slowzar99 asked about the synthesis summer or something equivalent. If I'm recalling correctly, that's the one that like you kind of like bonded with your summoner and kind of like or your eidolon and wore it. Am I recalling correctly?
Mm. In what regards to it? Has it changed or is it still there?
Any change, update to it? Sounds like they're just really interested in it. So, I think that was always an option people looked at and talked about, and we're trying to, oh, is this going to be the right one, especially from a numbers perspective?
I'm I'm fairly certain it's still there. I don't have the exact wording on the top of my head. Um, I worked on this book for a long time, but I do not quite have it all memorized to that extent at this
Can't
point.
imagine you would.
Yeah.
Well, can I
Yeah.
ask, how much do you think, what's in this book that really is for the non-traditional
Mm,
spellcasters?
yes.
Um, the fighter, the
Yeah.
ranger, some of these non-spellcasting classes. What's an impossible magic that they might grasp onto
Absolutely.
that benefits those classes?
For one, we have a large section of items, lots of cool expansions, including expansions on the very popular tattoos, that the magic tattoos that we
Oh,
have. So those are going to be expanded upon. Lots of other items have been expanded upon, like grimoire staffs, all over the place. Um, and we also have a really awesome selection of archetypes in this book that even if you're taking a non-traditionally magical character, you can delve into an archetype that will help bring a little bit of magic into your class, whether or not you're casting spells with them. But we are including ways to get spell casting without going into a multi-class archetype as well, but
mm,
also ways to use magic outside of the traditional spell casting system that I think are going to be very fun and engaging.
kind of like how runesmith feels too. Like maybe you
Yeah,
can pick up the
exactly.
knowledge of a rune or two.
Perhaps.
All right, all right. Looking at some other someone asked about the runesmith. Tritixt,
Mhm.
if I'm saying it right. Does runesmith have more feats to help fighting with the shield, or maybe even two-handed weapons that you
Ooh.
recall?
Um, boy. Uh, I know it definitely has feats that help with the shield. I don't I don't have the list comparing it to the pre-release version to know which ones are new or which ones have just been like there the whole time or updated. Um, it does have definitely more feats than it did in the release, and I imagine some of them have to do with your shield. I believe there is also more runes in general that can be put on shields
Hmm.
as well. Um, but I exact specific feat wording are things I'm gonna probably have trouble answering about.
No,
Yeah.
that's fair too. Like talking from my corporate career world,
Yes.
sometimes you attend, different webinars and events where it's like, hey, we're going to talk about some things that maybe are changing before release. We don't all
Yeah.
remember everything perfectly, and Very fair. We appreciate you sharing what you can with us.
It's a lot of pages in this book.
Which, I'm sure everyone will do a great job of comparative,
Yep.
documentation,
Yeah.
and then we will
Uh,
see plenty
no
of
amount of
conversation
me
about it too.
rereading this book will even compare to this book an hour after release with the hundreds of eyes pouring over it. The collective knowledge of the community will know more about this book than I do an hour after release.
Yeah. I'm very excited. I'm sure Gen Con will be all the talk.
Yes. I'm very
Okay.
excited to if anyone wants to come say hi to me at Gen Con. I'll happy to talk about Impossible Magic there. It's going to be very exciting.
Great. Go get your book signed, everybody. Oh, we should call it too. You have worked on this book with Logan, which is
Yes.
great.
Logan's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah. How about you talk about those impossible spells then?
Oh, Impossible Spells.
Yes.
Well, I would
This
love to
scar
tell
the
you
soul
about them,
thing.
but I just cast one and I can't remember quite how to do it again.
Oh,
It's
come
weird. It's
on.
weird. It's like slipped my mind right after I used it.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Now, would you say that always happens, or there's just a chance, maybe a flat check?
I would say that everyone gets a solid opportunity to cast an impossible spell one time and one time only.
Oh,
One time.
truly scar the soul. Okay. All right. Very interesting.
Yes.
Now, were these inspired because of the necromancer, like digging into the dark arts, or more just a new flavor because different traditions tend to sometimes push the boundaries?
This was a really this isn't the Necromancer book as much as I want it to be.
Most of everyone associates necromancer with dark magic and truly the occult, as you said.
Impossible spells aren't quite dark magic.
Okay.
They are like the highest echelon of magic that is possible for a mortal to achieve.
Okay.
Um,
All
yeah,
10th level or
they can be cast at many level, different ranks.
oh,
They can be
okay.
cast at.
Interesting.
But they are definitely pushing the boundaries of what is possible to do with magic and the extent that magic can be channeled into a single instantaneous kind of or perhaps elongated effect depending on what you're doing with it.
Hmm. Can I jump into a bit of the lore and ask where that's coming from an idea? Is there a story-based situation here? Is this you're
Oh,
digging into ancient magic,
there
you know?
definitely gonna be an impossible spell in the narrative section of this book being cast
Hmm. All
at
right.
one point that
I
will
always
be
love my
quite
little
exciting.
Lost Omens sidebars in our rule books, so I always dig into those. Um, Rick Bow had asked, I wonder if the flexible spellcaster is back, if it got some changes and clarifications, and considering like the necromancer might be getting magic from other sources, the runesmith is dealing with traditions from others. Is that something we see here? Is there something similar or any even updates directly mentioned for a flexible spellcaster?
We really did want to put a lot of emphasis on this book on as much new material as we can throw in
Hmm.
here. There are a handful, a very tight selection of remastered archetypes, but for the most part, the archetypes in here are going to be
Brand
new
new.
and exciting ones
All
for
right.
people to
Yeah.
explore.
Easy
Yeah.
does it had asked I was going to bring up how much of Impossible Magic is the remastering of Secrets of Magic and how much is brand new? What would
I
you say
don't
from a percentage perspective? Can you
I don't have
guess?
a percentage in front of me. I never I didn't quite do that math. But there is a lot of new material in here. Like
That's
there are
great.
more spells in here than there were in Secrets of Magic. There's more spells in here than there is, I believe, in the core rulebook. Um
That's awesome.
yes, and there
I
are
think it
gonna be
was,
there are
I'm trying to
remastered
remember the
spells,
number that
but
was
yeah.
in the public. Was it like 240 or
240
something?
spells, yeah, and that I believe is not including things like focus spells and impossible spells. I think there's over 300 once you include all those. Um,
Wow.
I don't quote me on that number, but lots and lots of fun
Yeah.
spells in
Forward
here.
looking statements. We're remembering what we can. We're sharing what we can. That's perfectly
Absolutely.
fair.
Lots of super fun new spells, lots of fun remastered spells that you can bring into your game. And yeah, it definitely a lot of spells that people want to have remastered, lots of things that people want remastered, but we also want to make sure that we're also innovating on the game and adding new stuff for players to explore and GMs to explore
Hmm.
and to delve into the game in new ways. So while this definitely is a partial remaster book, it is there's so much new stuff in here that is so exciting. That I think everyone's gonna really like. But that's just my very biased personal opinion.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah.
Favorite spell, maybe, that you could share?
Favorite spell that I can share.
You have to
Favorite spell
choose
that
one
I
and
can
only
share.
one, because after you cast it,
Oh,
you'll never cast it again.
oh, okay. Favorite spell that I can share is Speak with Magic.
Go on.
I think it kind of speaks for itself, right? Have you ever wanted to talk to a magical item or an enchantment or a
Oh,
ritual or and see what
who
what they're
cast
thinking
you?
about?
Who made you? That's wonderful, and has lots of interesting um, implications, I think, too.
Yeah,
Because if you're talking something that's divine and it has like that echo of divinity,
for sure.
perhaps some divinities that we've lost, that could be quite interesting.
Yes.
Wow. All right. What
But
level?
my favorite spell changes every day. I think that one is it's fourth
Okay.
ish.
All right.
I can check that one real quick.
All traditions.
Yes.
Hmm.
I believe at the first level you cast it, you can only speak with things of similar traditions, but heightened you can speak with all traditions.
Hmm.
Speak with magic,
Constantly reminded.
third rank spell.
Okay. All right. Seems those the speaks are what, two? So third, you're getting a bit more
A lot of
abstract. You're
them have
literally,
kind of gone up in level. Like
yeah,
speak with stone, I think is a pretty high rank.
yeah, yeah. Stones everywhere and it never forgets, I think is what dwarves would tell us. All right. Uh let's look at a bit more questions first before I jump into a GM related question. Favorite necromancer feat asks Mr. Kurz.
Oh, this is also one that's changing every single day. But I know the answer. I just want to make sure I'm saying the name of this right real quick. So let me forgive me 1 second while I scroll through anatomical quartering.
Ooh.
You briefly separate into four forms that share a same space, one made of blood, one made of bone, one made of flesh, and one made of spirit, and make four strikes each against a different target. The final strike deals spirit damage instead of normal types. Each attack counts as multiple penalty, but you don't increase your penalty until you have made all of your attacks.
Wow. See, all right, so I'm gonna jump ahead to a question I wanted to. I
Yes.
mentioned your theater background, and certainly
Yes.
tabletop gaming has tons of that performance from who you're spotlighting, the emotional drama of situations, the
Yeah.
rising conflict, presence, pacing, etc. Some of these spells, some of these classes, they have so much that they can evoke and bring to
Yeah.
it. Um, does that shape how you approach your game development in general, let alone impossible magic, where things can be so descriptive and
Yeah.
variable? That feat alone, it just sounds like it immediately made me visualize how it would look.
Yeah. So many people after reading The Necromancer will be surprised that I am not a fan of horror. Um, but I have been what some might say cursed, some might say blessed, especially in this situation. Well, I cannot visualize things in my mind. So I can write the most horrific kind of descriptions I want and be like, "Huh, this is cool," and then other people will actually have to like deal with visualizing that later. Deal
That
with
I mean,
visualizing.
that is, I guess, a blessing, really, especially if you're digging into that from a theatrical perspective too. I mean, I
Yes.
think sometimes people talk about it like, oh, I can't even imagine what you could do, and every GM goes, oh, I know how I would torture my players. I know what I would do. So, oh,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. And that from the same side of it, does it shape how you want to describe things, like specifically in like the quick blurbs, descriptive details for some of these features, feats, spells?
I I really like writing these kind of like really abbreviated but really evocative descriptions. I think they're very fun. It's a nice challenge to try to evoke as much as you possibly can in as few words as possible. Um, and I find them to be really an engaging puzzle to kind of put together. I used to write a lot of poetry in that sense. I worked in
I saw you
theater.
won first
Yeah.
place once. I think that was high school. Yeah, I know. I
Yes.
did my research. The
Oh no.
internet never forgets.
Yes, I did do poetry in high school.
I did too. I did too. No, but
And
that's
a little bit
great.
in college also. It
Awesome.
was something I always enjoyed doing. Because like all my thoughts are in words, not pictures. So like
Yeah. You're painting
um
pictures with words, and then the
exactly.
diction choice really matters. I think
Yeah.
writing those short forms is an art itself.
Yeah, and I also like to like say it out loud after I write it to see how it like feels in the mouth as you're saying it kind of thing because
Yeah,
that can make a big difference too in ways that people might not necessarily be consciously thinking of when they're reading.
wonderful.
But that's something that like to you know sprinkle in.
What's something you think, jumping to the GM side, that they
Mhm.
will be excited to leverage from this book?
Yes. Oh man. I think the impossible spells are going to be a very exciting GM tool.
For like
Just
big
in
villains or just
I impossible spells we kind of envision to be like the artifacts of spells. So these
ooh,
can be things that are like we have this big villain, but we can't quite fight it yet. First, we have to go on this quest to find this the spell that we need to defeat the big villain or something. It can be like its own like we go on a quest to find this spell, and then
hmm,
from that we pivot off to do the next thing. Like people hunt for like the mega awesome devil slaying sword. People will hunt for the awesome world flooding impossible spell to deal with the fire army attacking or something.
hmm. Anything in that vein, like around true name magic or rituals specifically, because that's what it made me think of.
There are going to be a lot of rituals in this book. I think the closest we are delving to true name magic is what is written in the runesmith about the
Okay.
names of the runes being
Yeah.
what's evoking the magic. Yeah, true name magic is a very tricky thing to write in a TTRPG kind of setting like
Yeah.
this. Just because it tends to be fictionally a very very kind of like one hit kill kind of effect in most cases, and
Hmm.
when it's portrayed in media. And it's hard to evoke that in a way that is fun and balanced and true to the nature of the fiction.
Love it. Love it. What about Shatreyu had asked about class archetypes, delving a bit into necromancy or the runesmith. Can you tease what a bit of that looks like, other than, maybe you're picking up spellcasting benefits?
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna like you're talking about like the necromancer multi-class
Yeah,
archetype.
like,
Yeah.
do you get one thrall and one thrall only? And for the runesmith, you learn only one rune and maybe pick up a few others. Like, what does that look like?
Um, the necromancer is gonna be able to summon thralls from level one, and the runesmith is gonna be able to create runes from level one. I don't know the exact like details of how they evolve
Progress?
from that sense
Yeah.
on, but they definitely are not gonna be as good as the regular necromancer and the regular runesmith, but it's going to evoke the feeling of playing those for sure.
Hmm.
And you're going to be able to do thralls, and you're going to be able to do runes with the respective ones.
I mean, of course,
Yeah.
that'll help PCs custom craft, what they envision for their character.
Hmm.
But I really like those two usually for how GMs want to frame up what an enemy might be like or what they might be capable,
Absolutely.
even if they're just completely blending something custom. I
Yeah.
think that gives them a frame of reference from a power standpoint and ultimately what you can build. Anything specific for the GMs, now with the loss of the different schools of magic and the different traits here. Obviously, this isn't just about impossible lands, like we talked about,
Yeah.
but there's always like cultural and other real world traditions that influence coming into some of the mechanics, some of the world building. Is there anything there here that GMs will recognize or be able to play with?
I think there's going to be some somewhat significant world applications in this book, especially in terms of what's happening in Galarian.
Hmm.
And there are definitely going to be some world building consequences to in the narrative of this book, in this hunt for Nex, whether or not they find him. You know,
Yeah.
how is that going to impact the world, or do they? find Nex? Is Nex released? Did they find Nex and did they stop Nex somehow? Did someone become more powerful than Nex? Who knows? You're gonna have to read the narrative and find out.
Yeah.
Lots of implications there.
Somebody asked specifically, what is the narrative of Impossible Magic? So it's hunting down Nex,
Yep,
or
it
what
is. It is
happens?
the search for the wizard Nex.
Hmm. Yeah, rising tensions of Geb and Nex again. I'm always, again, getting into lore from a GM side too. You know, Geb has the undead economy effectively. It relies on it heavily, but there are certain changes coming to the world, and they've got um, the tyrant up to the far north, and his attack on Absalom, and how does Geb play into that? Well, one thing specifically is that Geb had this policy against using vitality, and it could get you in trouble, and so it
Yeah.
encourages occult soothes and the like. How might we see the necromancer represented and the runesmith represented across various regions? Is that addressed at all that GMs might want to consider?
Yeah, so necromancers don't all come from Geb. A lot of them do, don't get me wrong. But
Right.
yeah, there are definitely going to be options. I think why that ban is, so implicit in Geb is because it's so easy for necromancers to access that vitality magic.
Hmm.
And it wouldn't be banned if it was, as hard to get. But vitality, playing with the vitality and the void aspects is a big feature of necromancers. But they also have lots of different paths they can go down in terms of like the feats they select, and in regard to that, like we've definitely built options if you wanted to go down a more sinister necromancer path, go more into the unholy aspect of it. But also, necromancers, not every necromancer is, as so unholy in that way. And there are paths to alternate from that route that might be considered a more traditional necromancy route.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually made me think of something that JB Walkup was asking about the new arcane schools. Necromancy
Yeah.
used to be an arcane school, and then we had I can't think of the school right now. The school that
Yeah.
represented like the void and such. How many new arcane schools are they? How are they represented?
Yeah. So the arcane schools in here are going to be arcane schools that are taught in the city of Nex. So there's going to
Ah,
be four new arcane schools that are centered around that kind of Nexian studies in various different
flesh
ways. But
warping. Eh?
we have to grab the book and find out what they are exactly. See you at
Mhm.
Gen Con. But
Yes.
they're very, very exciting stuff there. And they are focused on Next, but they can be, taken and put other places. They're not so hyper specific that they can't be moved around as needed for a campaign. And I think some of them are really cool. I'll give you the name of one of them.
Please.
That sounds like a fun little spoiler I can throw out there. Let's see. Ooh, do you want to roll a d4? This see which one I pick.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, you do have a
Right.
d4 handy.
Ah, ah, ah. Oh, look, dice. All right. Uh, two.
Two. Okay, let's do the School of Nexian Spaces. Whether your goal is immortality or creating worlds with every detail tailored to your liking, retracing Nex's experiments with demiplanes is the road to achieving your desires.
Ooh, conjuration and creation. Ooh, shifting, teleportate. Very. All right. I'm very excited. That I think will appeal to a lot of people, let alone if they're playing an Impossible Lands game.
Yeah,
But just the variances, I think, gives a lot of culture to these schools, and especially if you're playing in Galarian, they can really represent. I know, again, you participated in the Rival Academies book as well, so
yeah,
the GM implications, let alone the opportunities for the PC. That's great. Well,
yeah.
I think as we near the end, I wanted to ask, what are you most personally excited about for this book? What truly is like, I hope someone asks me about this at Gen Con.
I mean, Necromancer is my baby. I love Necromancer so much, but I am honestly, I think, most excited to see people find all of these fun, new, and exciting spells, and I want people to tell me about how they used it to like break wreck a combat in a game. I did super awesome big things. Because we really got a chance to focus on higher rank spells in this book because
Mm,
the edition's been out so long, and most of the time we do tend to focus on lower rank stuff because most people play at lower rank. But we
yeah.
really wanted to expand some higher level spell options in this book, and I think there's a lot of really, really big, awesome effects that people are going to find in this book that are going to be super exciting, and people are going to be want to play those high level, high magic kind of games. And I'm
Yeah.
very excited to hear about all these awesome spells people are throwing around the battlefield.
Well, I can promise you that as my journey with my necromancer progresses, I will be calling those out in articles because I specifically plan to talk about, my character progression,
Mm-hmm.
things that change as the book comes out, and just the usage and that, drive for what a necromancer can be. But also all the other features too. Of course, I'll be digging into with mechanics and lore implications, as well as access. And I plan to be teasing some of the book on behalf of Paizo as we get towards launch. Josh, thank you so much for joining us and taking
Absolutely.
time to be part of PaizoCon. Really appreciate it. And thank you for all your contributing to the community, even before you joined Paizo. Really appreciate it and love your creativity and all that you bring to it. So thank you.
Aw, thank you so much for having me here. This was a lot of fun, and I'm like, excited to share.
Everyone, make sure to hunt out Josh at Gen Con and bring your book. Get it signed.
Yes, I will be at Gen Con. I will be happy to sign any books or talk about it or just like geek out about necromancers or spells or even other Pathfinder stuff or just tea. If you want to talk about tea, I'll talk about tea with you.
Hey, yes, bring your tea suggestions from nearby. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for joining us at PaizoCon. I hope everyone has a good evening.